Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I've had the absolute pleasure of living with this 2026 Honda Odyssey Elite, what is by far my favorite minivan on the market right now. Not because it's the most efficient, the most practical, or even the best to look at, simply because it is fun to drive, which I know sounds hilarious, but if you know Honda, they sprinkle a little bit of their racing DNA into every car, and trust me on this, it does trickle down to their minivan, the Odyssey. Now, this got a facelift in 2025, which means they haven't changed anything for 2026. But what I do want to point out, the most meaningful aspect of the facelift of 2025, the addition of the Acura NSX rear reflector lights. And if that isn't enough to sell you on racing DNA, I don't know what is. But jokes aside, this is a very nice vehicle, and this is the 5th generation of Odyssey now. It's been the same since 2018. It's had 2 facelifts actually, the second of course being in 2025 as I just mentioned, but it still feels modern. It still feels like it can take on its competitors, the Kia Carnival, the Toyota Sienna, and the Chrysler Pacifica and Voyager, which I've never actually seen a Chrysler Voyager. I don't know that they actually exist, but anyway, this would be my choice, and I'm hoping through today's video you are able to see why. Now, we had an almost identical, in fact, it probably was exactly identical, 2025 Honda Odyssey Elite. Last year, it was even the same color, smoke blue pearl, which I think looks fantastic with the gray leather interior. And Emily and I showed you what it was like to live with. And since we did that last year, I think we'll sort of premise this year's video on a morning commute, because it is still morning, barely. It's 10:25. We have to run into the city to grab some things from Whole Foods, and it's quite windy today, so I apologize for that. And we're returning a pair of shoes that Emily bought on Amazon that she didn't like very much, so luckily we can return those to Whole Foods as well. So we only have to make one stop, and then we'll get this into downtown. We'll wind it up the parking structure, and well, we'll see what it's like as a commuter. Now, this is my favorite end of the Odyssey, not all of the minivan bits, actually what's under the hood. Honda's J-Series, the J35 naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 in the Odyssey, making 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. That has made it to a 10-speed automatic, and this is still only front-wheel drive. Honda won't sell you an all-wheel drive model of the Odyssey, and I think that's okay, because I think it adds to sort of the nimbleness and fun-to-driveness, which I know is just ridiculous to even talk about in a minivan, but it's important because if you're somebody that likes driving and you have to get a minivan, Honda's got your back. The Odyssey exists, and out of all of them, this is the only one that genuinely puts a smile on my face. So let's quickly poke around this. It's cold, it's windy, I don't want to be outside anymore. And we'll start in the trunk, where you'd probably be loading a stroller or, I don't know, bags of mulch, 100 grocery bags. There's so much room back here, and you can actually make this a flat surface with what Honda calls the magic seat. And it is very magical. You just pull this thing here and continue pulling it, and all of the seats sort of just disappear into the floor, and then you have this massive load surface back here. It's huge. You could like park a Fiat 500 in this. Quite impressive, and they fold up quite easily as well. And here's the thing, you know, there's plenty of cars like the Mercedes-Benz GLS and probably even some other minivans in this class that have electronically folding rear seats that are just a hassle. We'd still be waiting for these to fold the first time, and in about 10 seconds we've folded them into the trunk and back up, and they're now ready for 3 passengers to be in the back. Here's those shoes I was talking about that I have to return. We've got a number of little cubbies back here. Unfortunately, this shoe box is a little bit too small, but I think I could probably wedge something right there to make that, maybe the owner's manual? Let's see if that's the appropriate width. Honda does still give you an actual owner's manual. That's nice. I think, maybe? Oh, check it out. As Jeremy Clarkson would say, sometimes my genius, it generates gravity. That's one of them, isn't it? Or sometimes my genius is almost frightening, something like that. All right, let's open our sliding door. Of course, this is a minivan, so we have the luxury of the sliding rear door to help you load your children in or help your children not door ding the car next to you. Both positive aspects. Again, with manual controls, we can move this second row seat forward and jump into the third row. Now, I'm 5'11", sat behind a reasonable seating position here for a second row passenger. I've got plenty of room, and since this is front wheel drive, we don't have any drivetrain humps back here, which means my knees aren't in my face. I also get 2 USB-C ports, I get a vent, and with this Elite model, I even get a sunshade in the third row. How about that? Quite excellent. Got our own reading lights back here, which I guess only turn on if the ignition is on. We'll jump now into the second row. Honestly, getting in and out of this, not too bad. I can kind of squeeze in and out. And this, actually, I was going to say the middle seat is removable, but I think actually this entire row is removable to kind of just continue this flat surface. If you want to turn this into a cargo van, you can. But if you remove the middle seat, these 2 seats on the end slide sideways. So you could move them together, you could have them staggered a bit for whatever your reason may be. But since we have the middle seat in here, we can't demonstrate that. I know we showed that in our 2025 Odyssey video. So if you want to see that, I will link that in the description. That door takes its time. Massive sunshade, of course, here for the second row, good for babies or whatever you put in this row of a minivan. This bit here folds down like so, and then you've got some cup holders, 3 of them, and a little cubby as well. So that's nice to have, and I like that everything is just so configurable back here. It all just makes sense. I know I said in the beginning this isn't the most practical minivan, but I think maybe it is. Most practical and the most fun to drive. Clever console in the front as well. We'll get to that in a second, but you've got 2 seat back pockets. Actually, sorry, 4 seat back pockets. And you have this new 12.8-inch entertainment display. This was new for 2025. They just made it a bit bigger because why not have bigger things? You also have this little camera back here to watch your rear seat passengers, and they can also talk to you via a microphone if you cannot hear them. Quick access button there. You've got a vent on the B pillar. That's always good to have extra vents, especially because you don't have any on the clever little center console in the middle. But I think we're cleared with that for the second row. We are good. Now, let's show you the business end real quick, and then we'll get on the road. A lot of this is probably redundant. We have no hood struts, but you do have a very little sort of easy to use prop rod there. You can see our J35, I think Y7. This still has VTEC. Now, some of the newer J35 Hondas, the Pilot and the Passport, no longer have VTEC. It's a very similar engine, but this one absolutely screams at like 5,500 RPM, and you saw some of that in the intro. It is lovely. It's an engine that's got a lot of character. I don't always love a V6, but this is fantastic. I imagine this in like some little Honda sedan or something. It would absolutely scream. I'm sure this was implemented. Obviously, there were older Accords and things that had the J series, but man, think about a modern Accord with this engine. That would be fantastic. I love the styling of this overall. I think it's aged well since 2018. They've done all the right things. For tires, we have a Bridgestone. What is this? Turanza, Bridgestone Turanza. And of course, a squared setup here on the Odyssey in 235/55R19. These are special wheels for the Elite trim. This is, of course, the top trim. Starts at $51,000. This one with destination and things is about 53 grand. If you know Honda, you know they don't really let you pick any options. They're all sort of grouped together depending on which trim you get. So the Odyssey itself starts somewhere in the low 40s. I think it's like 41,000 for the base model, and you can get all the way up to the mid 50s here, especially if you add some dealer accessories. But let's jump in, let's start this thing up, let's get this heated steering wheel going, and I will be a much happier person when that happens. But let's show you these gray perforated leather seats, of course heated and ventilated here in the Elite trim. 2 memory seat settings. Got some nice trimmings here on the door panel. So many pockets and places to put things. I mean, that's what minivans are all about, right? You've got pocket here, cup holder here, pocket here, cup holder here, little pocket here with its own little grippy surface. I don't know what you'd put there. Maybe a couple coins or something would probably still rattle and drive me nuts. And then, when you thought it was all over, the car greets you and says hello with its little 7-inch half electronic gauge cluster. But look at this. There's even another little pocket behind the window switches. They have simply thought of it all. Let's start this up and get some heat going. It's impressive to me how in sync the digital and physical part of the gauge cluster are when the vehicle starts and the needles do their little sweep thing. But this is kind of indicative of just kind of showing the age of the car. You know, it's been the same-ish since 2018. We still have a regular gauge cluster on the right, which, hey, I wish the whole thing was physical like this with maybe just a little screen in the middle. I am always one to be all for a physical gauge cluster. Heated steering wheel on, heated seat is already on. It remembers from the last time I was in the car. Love to see that. Wireless Apple CarPlay here. We've got an 11-speaker unbranded sound system. Of course, we'll do a test on that for you today. The main thing I want to show off before we get out on the road is this center console. So you've got an opening back here, which I'm storing my hat in right now. You've got this little removable guy, which I've got my ND filter in. We'll try not to bother that too much, where you've got another compartment down there. And then you've got this extra cubby up here with a divider in it, so you can place this sort of just wherever you want and divide your things. I don't know what you'd put in there. And then you've got two cup holders here. I always do think, how many things are people bringing with them? But then I've never had children before, so I don't really know. You've got power outlets up here, USB-C and USB-A port, push-button shifter, lots of physical controls. Of course, this entire climate control panel is still physical. Some nice trim on the dash, some little fake stitching there to make you think that the dashboard is stitched in leather. We've got a moonroof. You've even got a climate control panel there on the headliner for the second row passengers. You just have to hope that the person sitting on the passenger side agrees with you, because they control it. Okay, I think that's enough. I think you guys know the Odyssey anyway, and you just want to hear VTEC. That's kind of how I feel about this. So let's go into reverse. Let's disengage the parking brake and show you what is probably the same reversing camera from 2018, or maybe the first facelift in 2021. It gets the job done, but we don't have a 360 camera in this, which I think would be nice for a vehicle of this length. This is a very long car. I took the trash out at the house last night, and I had to move this out of the garage to be able to get the trash out. This thing is so long. Anyway, into drive, central locking activating. And as soon as you take off, there are a couple of things you notice right off the bat. For one, the steering is ultra light, which I like. Ease of use for parents that, you know, don't want to put a ton of effort into steering the van. That is obviously good. But also you notice how massive the steering wheel is. I think this is the same unit you get in the Ridgeline, and it feels it. It feels like a big truck steering wheel. But that's okay. I don't mind the design of it. I think it could be just a little bit smaller. You do feel sometimes a little ham-fisted with the steering wheel just because of the size, and I don't know, it feels a little bit big for the rest of the interior. But otherwise, things here are quite good. Turn signal's got a nice, satisfying click to it. This does have auto stop start, which just engaged. Gets on with it pretty well though, and you can shut it off here with that physical button if you would like. Beating traffic there, spinning through second gear. When you hit VTEC, all bets are off. The tires are getting shredded. 262 pound-feet of torque apparently is all you need to absolutely light them up. A little bit of torque steer there. Blinking traction control light, absolutely fighting for its life. Obviously we can kill that with the traction control button there. Traction control reduced. That's not fully off. You probably have to hold it for fully off, but we'll just leave it on reduced for the time being. Really nice progressive throttle inputs here. Easy to take off and not be obtuse. Obviously that was very dramatic. A very dramatic performance from me back there, taking off and spinning the tires. But this is very easy to drive in a civilized manner. Obviously you don't want Sharon with her 5 grandchildren in the back to be just spinning the wheels everywhere. So minimal throttle inputs are rewarding here. You're not giving yourself whiplash here in the Odyssey. We do also have a sport mode for the transmission. There is a very noticeable audible change at about 5,500 RPM. All right, let's take a corner. Come on. Gearbox does hesitate to change down in a corner. I understand for stability control reasons and things, but that took about 3 seconds longer than I would have liked for a kickdown. Also, I always just like to say keen-eyed viewers, but keen-eared viewers keen-eared listeners may have noticed what seems to be a faulty window seal. There's quite a bit of wind noise from this B-pillar here, so don't know what that's about, especially on a car that only has 744 miles on it. This is a very fresh van, rather. All right, let's get this off the line and do what is supposedly about a 6-second 0 to 60, which is so funny. It feels it. It really does. I think they may be lying about the horsepower ratings in this, but let's get this off the line real quick here. Fighting for grip there in first gear, but we did it. Just such a good level of power, you know, it's just, it feels right. It really does feel right. Now, okay, let's talk about some other things that pertain to the driving experience in this car. And I want to start with ride quality. Now, this is a properly dreadful section of road here. Really bad, bumpy, choppy, torn up. Road holding is good. And the Honda Odyssey soaks it all up. Now, this is not like Mercedes GLS levels of floaty, but I'm comfortable in here. No problem whatsoever. There goes our favorite mailman. He's not going to notice me here in a Honda Odyssey, maybe if I was in a GT3 Touring, but that's okay. All right, let's put this back into drive. Let's turn traction control back on. And we'll actually live with the Odyssey in the way that it's intended to be lived with. Going into town and buying groceries, I suppose. Really quick and precise gear changes from this 10-speed automatic transmission. Very smooth as well. Obviously, this does prioritize smoothness, but when you put the hammer down, with this having the steering ratio that it does, you do sometimes have to over-exaggerate the steering inputs, especially with it just having a massive steering wheel. But that's okay. It's all part of the experience. Now, what I wanted to finish talking about was the ride quality. Now, not only is this soft and forgiving, it's very compliant. You don't feel this thing sort of like wandering anywhere. You don't feel it floating around. It's a very nice, easy to manage ride quality. I mean, this is overall a very easy vehicle to drive, a very easy vehicle to live with, and that it should be, because it should be able to be bought by anybody to make their life easier. That's what a minivan is for, to make your life easier. And this does that, but for the enthusiast parent that also has, I don't know, a Civic Type R next to the Odyssey in the garage, and you have more than 3 children, because you could probably do 3 kids in a Civic Type R. Topher does too with his. This is the answer. If you like to have lots of children. Okay, let's see. Let's go into S on the gearbox. Let's turn traction off, and we'll get this off the line one more time. Why not? We won't brake boost it this time, though. But we did catch the Pontiac vibe, who is merging at a very appropriate speed. So we applaud the Pontiac vibe for that. Let's put this back into its minivan mode. There we go. There's even an eco button. We'll hit that. Why not? That just numbs your throttle response and puts a little leaf on the dashboard for you. All right, now this faulty window seal is becoming even more apparent now. I'm realizing that until this moment, I haven't driven on the highway without the music blasting, so I have not been able to observe this. Oh, the windshield wipers just came on. I didn't ask them to do that. Okay, let's hit our cruise control button. It was already turned on, and set this cruise control. Now, since this is a Honda, it means it probably has a very nervous adaptive cruise system. These usually do. We've got some steering assist here. We'll turn that on. We'll see what that's about. And then we can also adjust the distance for our adaptive cruise here on the steering wheel. It's all over here on the right side. Pretty easy to figure out. Okay, you see coming up on slower traffic, we are tapping the brakes. Steering required. We'll just rest our hands on the wheel here. And now accelerating past the slower traffic, it takes it a minute. I've got this set to 79, 70, 71. We're not dropping a gear. We probably should be. Yeah. I think I'll just do this myself. Never really been a big fan of the Honda adaptive cruise and overall steering assist. Some of the newer cars, they're a little bit better, but I still think they have a ways to go with developing this. Now, if it weren't for the faulty window seal, it would be decently quiet. Now, I don't think this is maybe $53,000 quiet. It's a little bit loud in here. But it is at least somewhat aerodynamic at the front. Of course, this still kind of employs the traditional minivan shape, unlike the Kia Carnival, which just looks like a big toaster. This still does have certain styling cues that sort of go back to the first gen Odyssey. Speaking of toasters, Hummer H2 right there. Ooh, that's a rough one. But as far as manners here, as far as being comfortable in the Honda Odyssey, obviously you are. You've got these adjustable armrests here, which are very squishy. Since that console sits so low, love to see that they have still thought of your elbows. Left-hand side, same story. Comfy little spot there on the door panel. Love to see it. This Honda Odyssey is rated at 28 mpg on the highway. Now, if you're me, you're probably not getting that. Let's see what I've done. Engine fuel. Yeah, I've been doing 17.7 mpg. Look at this maneuver from the Prius. Oh my goodness. Those are some big baguettes and a very thin layer of Prius mayonnaise in that sandwich. My goodness. What were we looking at here? I've done 81 miles and I've done 17 mpg. Now, if you're a normal person, this will get 22 combined, which isn't that great, to be honest. In fact, best-in-class minivans are much higher than that. The Kia Carnival Hybrid, the Pacifica plug-in hybrid, the Volkswagen ID Buzz, which is a new entry into the market. Forget that exists sometimes. I drove one last year. But that, obviously, you don't have to worry about gas. This is, I think it's the second worst behind the V6 Pacifica. So that's something to take into consideration, obviously. Oh, and the Sienna. The Sienna as well. That's a hybrid only. But none of those are as fun to drive as this is. This gives me mild fizz. Mild James May fizz. I think the ergonomics here in this cabin are quite nice as well. Seating position is good. You do sit pretty high up. I've got the seat adjusted all the way down. Of course, this is a power seat, as is the passenger seat here in this Elite model. Visibility is fantastic. No need for a camera or anything. I can see everything I want out of the back. Those headrests are folded down right now, so if you did have third row passengers, it may be nice to have a camera, but right now we are doing just fine. Side view mirrors are good. I mean, everything is well within reach here. This all makes sense. It's all very precise, both. And even though the steering wheel is large, there are nice spots here to rest your hands as you float down the highway. Brake pedal feel is nice. We talked about throttle earlier. I mean, it's really just an easy van to live with. Should we do the bridge test? Let's go into sport. Let's use manual mode. Let's use these paddle shifters. All right, here we go. What are we in? We're in second. We'll leave it there. It did change gear for me, so that's a little bit of a bummer. I'll put that back into drive. No noise, only noise inside, which I think is kind of cool to have that sound coming in because it's all induction sound. Obviously, a minivan's not going to have a raunchy exhaust, but man, how cool is it to hear that coming through the dash? Proper Honda VTEC, which is dying, and this is probably it. I mean, we'll maybe have like 1 or 2 more model years of the 5th gen Odyssey, and then I'm sure it'll get either the new V6 hybrid setup that Honda's working on, or some sort of 4-cylinder hybrid, but we're hoping for the new V6 hybrid, of course. That would be quite cool. As far as placeability when you're in traffic, as we are right now, the Odyssey's fine because it's not a very wide vehicle, so you don't really feel like you're stretching from mayonnaise to curb. The only thing it has is length, so that really only matters when you're maneuvering, when you're going around corners and such, which we'll show you in the grocery store parking lot up here. Ooh, the store's got some reindeer. Check it out. What day is today? Why are there so many people here? We're gonna let this nice pedestrian go. There he goes. All right, we're gonna go to the bookstore today, park over here because I don't want to deal with having this over in that busy section. So let's see if we have a good spot over here. I think we do. We're gonna park right in front of this Toyota Sienna to assert our dominance. Right up to that Dodge Dart. Steering's quick enough to get you set up here to back into a spot. Of course, we have leading lines here with this reversing camera. Would really love to have a 360 camera, though, to be able to make sure that I am properly in the spot, but I think we've done okay. Hard to judge because that Sienna's parked in 2 spots. So let's put our parking brake on, which is right over by your left knee. And you're able to open and close your power sliding doors from up here as well, of course, to let your kids in and out. That is quite convenient. All right, see how we did parking. I think we did quite all right. Comfort access there, moving the seat back for me to be able to get out. Oh yeah. Oh, we are in that spot. We are good. See comparison there to a Sienna. Sienna looks like an elephant man compared to the Odyssey. All right, we're gonna go into the store, grab a bunch of food. So we'll have to find a good spot to put everything, but I will go get food and I will be back. And walking back up to my minivan, where the parking lot has certainly filled out a bit, this is supposed to have a hands-free lift gate, but I don't know where it is, so we're just going to use the button. Now, I did actually remember to take the shoes back, so you're welcome, Emily, and I think I'm going to try and be clever with this setup back here. I think I'm going to try and use the magic rear seats here to my advantage and make this little compartment for the 2 heaviest bags of groceries that have ever existed. I think that's about 80 pounds. But that should keep those from sloshing around, I think. So there you go. You've even got a little bit of a cargo solution back here. And then if you can sneak around the van, we can squeeze in next to this F-150. We do have proxy key on here, so that is good. Thank you for the greeting. Man, I am a changed man after being in that Whole Foods. There's a catering pickup order thing going on in there right now. Absolute chaos. I'm happy to be in my own little space again. But that reminds me, we didn't show off the cabin talk or cabin watch. Actually, we're not going to be able to show off cabin talk, are we? Because there's nobody back there, but we can show off cabin watch, and you can see a pretty high definition camera to take a look at your rear passengers, or in my case, my groceries, which I actually can't see because they're behind that seat that's still folded up. But a pretty cool thing there. It's like the 360 camera that train spotting guy wears on his face. Kind of what that looks like. All right, as we get into downtown, let's fire up this 11 speaker sound system and give you guys a taste of what that's like. Also, I've enabled lossless sound on Spotify now, so this should actually be a little bit higher quality going forward. All right, sneak out of here. Honestly, not a terrible sound system. And here's the thing, okay? This car came from the era, just at the tail end of the era, where Honda was not putting any branded audio in any of their cars. And since this hasn't been changed really since 2018, it still retains just a regular Honda unbranded sound system. Now, this is more speakers than you get in a lower than the Elite trim, which means it sounds a little bit better, but it still isn't great. It kind of lacks the power. The clarity is decent. We've got these little tweeters on the A-pillars, so definitely not as good as a Bose system that you'd see in a similar Honda. So it'd be nice if they put a Bose in this, and honestly, I'm sure we'll see it in the next generation Odyssey. So I think we've done it all. We've hit VTEC about 20 times. We drove on the highway. We drove through town. We stopped at the store. Now we're going into downtown to park in a parking structure. What are my final thoughts here on the Honda Odyssey? Well, we kind of laid it all out for you in the beginning, but I think just seeing this go through all of this with ease today kind of solidifies that this still is my favorite minivan, because not only is it fun to drive, it can do all of this stuff without you having to make a second thought. I mean, there's nothing in here that's annoying. Ride quality is great. All of the inputs are good. I mean, this is just normal Honda stuff. None of this should be surprising. And like we said at the beginning, at the end of the day, at the end of the video, this is still a Honda. It's still going to do all of the Honda stuff. And we love it for that. So the last test will be maneuverability. We'll get this in the structure here. Past the Mobility Ventures MV1, which is also a great van that has a screaming V6, or a V8 in some models. We'll get this in here. I think the fact that the front end is so short and there's like not a lot of overhang, it does allow you to place this pretty easily.
Please select an event from this.
We are at just the,
Please proceed into the line.
thank you, just the perfect height to grab a ticket for a toll, a parking structure, whatever the case may be. And check this out, we even have ambient lighting in this Honda Odyssey. How about that? All right, here's where we're gonna feel the length, but it's fine. It's plenty maneuverable. Just have to be watching this mirror somewhat closely to make sure we're not ripping the side of the car off, van off. So that's gonna be a wrap on the 2026 Honda Odyssey Elite, a minivan that is genuinely fun to drive. And that's not a joke. I mean, you guys can look at this video as satire if you want, but it really isn't. I mean, I actually look forward to going and driving this because it's a little bit different. Like in 2026, in the 2026 model year, there really aren't a lot of things like this. Like a front-wheel drive screaming V6 thing, like that just doesn't exist anymore. I know a lot of older SUVs 10, 20 years ago used to be front-wheel drive V6 things, and lots of minivans did, which I guess lots of minivans still are. Most of them in the segment, you could still have a V6. But there's a fun factor to this because not only is it a screaming VTEC front-wheel drive V6 thing, but it's also a Honda, which means they've actually thought about driving. And it's cool. And this may not be your traditional Honda Odyssey review, and that's okay because I don't aim to be traditional. I want to show you what it's actually like to live with, what it's actually like to drive a car day to day, and I hope this was able to communicate that to you. But I'm going to park this up. We'll give you one last look at this smoke blue pearl, which I think is quite a nice color. They actually offer some good colors on this. You can have a red as well, a couple of blue, it's a red, a blue, and then you have the Civic Type R gray color, which I always forget the name of, and people get very upset at me for it. Sonic Gray, that's the color. You can also have that. All right, there's nobody up here, so we're going to hard park the Odyssey. We'll even open the doors. Why not? We'll even open the doors. There you go. Got to unlock them first. All right, let's give you one last look at this thing. This is how you hard park a minivan. All right, guys. Well, if we left anything out, first step will be to go to the video from last year because we did another one. So we've got over an hour of Honda Odyssey content here on Topher Drives. But if there's things missing from both videos, please ask in the comments, and other commenters or myself should be able to clear some stuff up for you if there are questions. But that'll be it. Thank you guys all so much for watching. You could just walk right through this, couldn't you? Check that out, in and out the other side. Okay, cool. All right, guys, thanks again. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.